Have you ever wanted to quit clinical dentistry? I certainly have. In fact, I did, and I regret it. I definitely can't speak for everyone, but when I was in dental school, I had an idea of what dentistry was. I feel like I had a very good idea of it because my family was in the dental profession, and I saw quite a bit. However, the realities of the dental profession were a little different than what I was anticipating. When I got into the field, I was excited about learning new skills and improving what I did. I was taking all sorts of different types of CE courses, and it kept things pretty interesting. However, after a couple of years of this, I started to get fairly competent and fast at most of the standard dental procedures. But then the honeymoon was disappearing, and I started to get a little more bored. Maybe it wasn't just boredom, but I started to realize the amount of work that dentistry truly took, and how hard it was going to be to actually pay off these huge student loans. I feel like I knew this, but I didn't realize how hard it is to pay back all of these student loans with after-tax dollars when life is also very expensive. I was also starting a family, so that things were not necessarily getting cheaper. I'm not sure that I was prepared for the emotional toll that dentistry took, dealing with complicated and anxious people day in and day out for long days. Dentistry had become extremely repetitive and was becoming monotonous to me. Owning a practice, managing a business, and trying to have a family life started to become very difficult as all areas of life became demanding and required more time than I really had. It seemed like employees were just generally ungrateful, and no matter if you treated them well and paid them well or not, it didn't really matter. Physically, it's fairly hard on the body working 10+ hour days, 5+ days a week in the weird positions that dentistry requires of you. It felt like multiple times a day, I would have patients that couldn't lean their chair back, needed a pillow that was like a foot thick, and they all had distal decay on their second molar. Then you have dumb things like negative reviews or board-related risks, and all of this in a litigious world. At the same time, many of your patients think you are making a fortune and always joke about paying for your boat, etc. The reality was that new dentists can often just be in pure survival mode. I'm not sure if it was any of these in particular or just the culmination of all of this, and then long days and long weeks over and over and over, but I began to let my mind wander about life or a career outside of this monotonous slog that was dragging on endlessly. If I had an option to make dentist level income or higher, I would have probably taken that and walked away with it. However, with hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, I never really thought that was an option. The student loan debt felt like handcuffs that reduced my options. It can be so easy for all of us to assume the grass is always greener somewhere else. I knew that wasn't likely true, but even I thought about this situation. Instead of addressing the issue that I was facing with dental work head on, I instead started strategizing and finding ways to get out of dentistry instead of getting better. I always liked the business aspect, and so my plan became to create multiple practices so that I could eventually manage and not have to do the dentistry. About 2 years out of dental school, I started acquiring new practices. I did a startup and then hired a dentist to backfill me. I then purchased a third practice and grew that. I purchased a practice per year for the first several years until I was 5 years out of school. I then purchased 3 practices in 1 year and kept adding until I was around 7 years out of dental school, and I had about 12 practices. When I was about 3 years out of dental school, I went down to 2 days per week clinically, and by 5 years out of school, I had stopped working clinically. So by all accounts, I would call that probably extremely successful. It was great. I got out of clinical and was building businesses, and that was exactly what I planned for. So I had accomplished it. So you would think that life would be great and everything would be easy, right? The reality was that all I did was trade one set of problems for a different set of problems. The new problems that I had were much more complicated and stressful than the problems I had when I was just working clinically. When you're in dental school, it seems like everybody wants to own multiple practices. And they had this idea that that is the path to success. Tons of people want to do it. While in reality, it is definitely a path to success, and I've done well at it, but it is absolutely not the easier path. For those of you thinking that getting multiple practices and managing is the path to getting out of clinical dentistry, I would be very careful with that opinion. For certain types of very entrepreneurial people that enjoy managing, then yes, it can be good. But the vast majority of dentists are not cut out to do this. In fact, most dentists that get multiple practices end up making less money than when they were just working in one practice by themselves. The reality is that multiple practice ownership is a long game where most of the benefits occur after you've paid off the loans. I know many dentists who have gone through this path and they can't make it to the day where the loans are paid off. So they sell early and lose most of the benefit. Running one practice by yourself where you are the producer is 100 times easier than trying to find associates, keeping them motivated, and keep those practices productive and profitable. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm saying that the vast majority won't be able to do this. The reason why I regret leaving clinical is because I felt like I ran away from problems that were easily fixable. While dentistry is a difficult profession, it is way better and easier than most positions or jobs that you can find. The problem wasn't necessarily with dentistry, it was with me. I feel like quitting clinical dentistry was a failure because instead of accepting it as a challenge and overcoming it, I found a different path to avoid it. I'm telling this to each of you because yes, a percentage of you maybe shouldn't be doing clinical dentistry, and it would be better for you to leave. But I can promise that the vast majority of you would be so much better off by adjusting your mindset and tackling the issues that you have head on to make dentistry into a fantastic career. The more you run, the more you avoid certain procedures, and the more you become stagnant by not learning new and sometimes stressful things. Those are all small failures. Those failures build and you start identifying yourself as a failure, and then you hate dentistry. But you can't leave dentistry because you have debt, you have loans, and you don't have other options. So now you have a career that you hate going to day in and day out. It is depressing, frustrating, isolating, and can be very dark for so many people. I have worked with a lot of dentists, and I promise you that the vast majority of you can learn to love dentistry and embrace the difficulties and challenges that it presents. You can find joy in this profession, but it requires a mindset shift and tremendous amounts of work. While I still love the business aspect of dentistry and continue to do lots of different things on and off, I will go back and do some clinical dentistry, mostly to show myself that I am not running from it. I have been able to find so much more joy in clinical dentistry, and I will share with you some of the things and strategies that help me in future videos. Now, if you can resonate with any of these feelings, I urge you not to be rash and do not quit dentistry. Don't let yourself run away, but instead identify the challenges and work on them head on. Don't let dentistry beat you. Work hard and overcome the difficulties of this profession. And then at that point, if you want to do something else, great, but you will leave a winner and not run away as a failure. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Am I the only one who's dreamed of quitting clinical dentistry? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.